Jared Polin, PhonosPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Canon 7 to 14mm f2.8 to 3.5 fisheye. That is right, this is a very special lens that is a circular fisheye as well as a regular fisheye, aka diagonal. Now, what does that mean? That means you are literally getting a circle at 7mm, and when you get to 14, it is a diagonal fisheye which covers the entire frame. But we'll get into more specifics as well as sample images as we get into this review. Now, keep in mind that a fisheye is a very, very specialized lens that probably shouldn't be the only lens or first lens that you add to your bag. For me, it's something that would be like my fourth or fifth lens. It is something that pros might have in their bag, but use it sparingly. And with that being said, this is the first full frame fisheye lens native to a mirrorless camera from a Nikon, Canon, or Sony. Nikon doesn't have a native fisheye for their mirrorless camera. Sony has never had a fisheye native. This is the first time we have a native one. Yes, you can get third-party options, but this is the first time they've done it in the mirrorless world. So where did I take this lens to test it out? Well, I went to Paris, France, la croissance. I had 0 croissants. I had baguettes because I love baguettes. But while I was there, I photographed a friend who was opening his new studio. We went and said hi to Mona Lisa.
What's up?
As well as getting photos at the Eiffel Tower, showing you what circle looks like and what full frame diagonal fisheye looks like. Now let's take a look at the outside of the lens and compare it to Canon's 8 to 15 fisheye, which was a straight up f4. It has some hair on it. We're gonna get rid of that hair. But here you go. Now, we have the lens adapter, the EF to RF adapter already on here to show you that it would be the same size if you adapted the old one to the new RF system. Now, they are different lenses because there's more elements in the new one than in the old one. Also, the new is 7 to 14 where you had 8 to 15. This was a very popular lens for certain people, but it was time that they did come up with a refresh. Just like I said earlier, fisheye lenses are very special lenses. Not like special in an amazing way, they can be overused. You just want to use them sparingly and use them when it comes in handy, and I'll show you samples of where that is and explain that at the very end of this video. But let's take a look at the outside of this lens. When you pick it up, you realize it is not that heavy. It is lighter than its predecessor. A lot of that has to do with the new elements and the way that the RF lenses are made, but it does feel fine. Doesn't feel super heavy. Now you have a lens cap right here. This is a lens cap that is custom to this lens. It actually doesn't fit on the old one and the old one doesn't fit on the new one. We tested that out. Now when you are shooting at 7mm, which is the widest, you have to take off the lens hood. If you have the lens hood on, you will see the lens hood when you are shooting the circular fisheye. In fact, the circular fisheye sees 190 degrees, whereas the old one at 8mm showed you 180 degrees. That means at 190 degrees, you might get something sticking into the frame from the top, the left, the bottom, anywhere, like my fro.
My toe was in the photo. And look, my face is in it.
Your stomach might show up if you're a little overweight, so you're gonna have to be careful in that situation. But at 190 degrees, it is basically, it is seeing behind you. So how much does it weigh? It comes in at 1.14 pounds or 520 grams. Now, as we go around the side of the lens, we will see that we have a manual to autofocus switch. You have a custom function button as well as a lock switch. Now, why do you have a lock switch? Because you can lock it in at 7mm, meaning we lock it in at 7, so say you're shooting VR video and you don't want it to zoom at all, you would lock it in at 7 and it will not go anywhere. But also, the lock goes into place at C on the side of the lens, which means it locks in at just under 9mm and takes you all the way to 14. That is if you are shooting on APS-C cameras. If you're shooting with an APS-C camera, you will not get a full circle, so keep that in mind. The reason you would lock it there is so that you get the full diagonal, but I don't think many people should be buying this if you're on a cropped sensor camera. Continuing around the lens, you can see that it is an easy zoom throw from 7 to 14. Above that, you have your manual ring, and then you have your command dial or your control ring right here that you can custom set that Canon has on all of their lenses. Now, what's different about this version than the old version and what makes it the same size when you put the adapter on is the fact that they built in a drop-in filter slot. So it comes with a filter already in there, a clear one that they say you must use for some reason. I don't know why, but it's in there. But this is in case you want to add in an ND filter or a circular polarizer. Me as a still shooter, I don't really think that's going to be necessary. Maybe it comes in handy for video shooters. I personally would have liked to have seen it without it to give me a smaller lens, but again, it's not that big of a lens to begin with, so it's not that big of a deal to add that extra function in there. Let me jump in here real quick and let you know that this video is brought to you by Squarespace. Now, I've been using Squarespace for well over 15 years at this point for my personal website at jaredpolin.com because it's simple, easy, affordable, and I don't need to know any coding. To get your 14-day free trial, head on over to squarespace.com/FronosPhoto. If you decide that it's for you, use the code FronosPhoto at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Now get to making your website. Now look at the front element on this lens. It is incredible. That is absolutely nuts of a lens. Now what you don't want to do is what I'm about to do. I'm not going to do it because it's Canon's lens, but you can't just put it down on its front without putting the lens hood back on. So you put the lens hood back on and now you can stand it up. You can also put the cap back on, but also take the cap off and have it be the lens hood already stuck inside. So it's easy, it's done, it's simple. Just make sure you don't get a fingerprint on the front element, because if you do, it shows up in your Eiffel Tower photos. Because I couldn't figure out what that halo was, but that is where the fingerprint was. So be very careful to not get fingerprints on this lens. Let's jump into some of these images. This is my buddy DeMarcus, who opened a Pilates studio in Paris in one of the most beautiful freaking apartments ever. It is gorgeous. As you can see, it's just a beautiful place. So I thought it would be good to test out the fisheye. Now, when you're shooting at 14 millimeters and getting the full diagonal, you're at f3.5. When we go and we show the circular fisheye, which here you can see the slight top of my hair showing up in the frame, this is now 2.8, whereas the old one was just a straight f4. Is there a difference between 2.8 and 3.5 when it comes to a fisheye? The answer to that question, Stephen, is no. No, because it doesn't matter when you're shooting that wide. Now, I told you this place was gorgeous. Just look at DeMarcus sitting in the middle of this room. Look at the craftsmanship that is going on around the room. This is where a 14 millimeter diagonal fisheye comes in handy. It just gives you so much in the way of view in the room. Now, the difference between a rectilinear lens, like the 10-20, which I have right here, this is the 10-20 rectilinear lens. What that means is that the lines are corrected on the edges. They're straighter. They are not bowing, where that is what the fisheye does. So you're gonna have to decide, is a 10-20 a better option for you? Or maybe is it the new 14 1.4 VCM lens if you're looking for something wide, but a fisheye is a special lens. It's special because it gives you something that you won't get regularly with the rectilinear lenses. The fisheye has an STM motor, which is giving you autofocus, and the lens is internal zooming, meaning it is not moving when you are zooming. Is autofocus that important when you're shooting this wide? The answer to that is most likely no. The reason I mentioned the autofocus is there is a Laowa lens that is for the RF mount that is manual focus. Now it's 8-15 and it is far less expensive than this lens, and we'll get to the price at the end, but there are other options. Would I want to do manual focus? The answer to that is no. Is it that big of a deal to manual focus that wide? The answer to that is also no. But the autofocus was accurate, it was fine, it did exactly what it needed to do. But let's move in to say hi to Mona Lisa, because the 14 millimeter here just looks incredible. This is where you get those perfectly symmetric lines and images. This is where fisheyes shine. When you have great symmetry. Think about any situation that you go into where you want to show the environment, but you don't want to just overdo it. So really with fisheyes, you get the pictures that you need and then you put it in the bag and you forget about it for 99% of the time. But I was really happy with the colors and tones that I was able to pop out of this lens. And by the way, I wasn't using my R1, I was using the Canon R6 Mark III this time around because it was easier and smaller to travel with. Now let me show you another example of using the fisheye at the Mona Lisa. I went to the very front of the line. I worked my way up, I was patient, I waited, and I got there.
How long does this take? It shouldn't take this long to get a picture of the Mona Lisa.
Just to show you what 7mm would give you, and then move out to 14 to show you what 14 looks like. But check this out. This is what 14 from a 1.4 rectilinear lens looks like. So you can see all three on the screen. You've got your circular, you've got your 14 diagonal fisheye, and you have the 14 rectilinear so you can see the different options. Now, remember I mentioned the R6 Mark III. Another reason I took that to Paris with me is I knew that I wanted to get some video to show you examples of what a circular fisheye would look like on video. And right now, that is the only camera that allows us on Canon's end to do the open gate recording. And in order to get the full circular image for video, you are going to need to shoot open gate. So that means if you're going to be shooting VR and you want to capture the entire thing with video, you're going to need to use an R6 Mark III, or I should also mention the C50. They're interchangeable to me because they're literally the same sensor and basically the same camera. A quick caveat, when I say VR, we're talking about 190 VR. We're not talking about a full 360. We're talking about 190. Let me jump in here real quick because I want to show you our custom Lightroom presets from FroPak 4 in action on this photo right here, starting with Blue's Clues, followed by Brooklyn. We've got C41 for all of those people who want that filmic look. We've got Copper Tone, High C, Kaleidoscope, Mel Brooks, Saltwater Taffy, Thick, and Wet Hot American Summer. And my all-time favorite from FroPak 1 is Skittles. With one click, it goes boom. But new and exclusive to FroPak 4, we've got 4 custom adaptive Lightroom presets called Face Enhance, Full Body Skin Enhance, Eye Only Enhance, and Background Blur. So look, if you want to speed up your raw workflow or give yourself a great starting point, or also edit on the go in Lightroom Mobile, because these presets work on JPEGs and RAW on the go, we created 14 all-new custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at fronosfoto.com/FroPak4. While you're over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters, and if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Or, if you want to save even more, you can get the Grand Slam bundle that includes FroPak 1, 2, 3, and 4, and of course, Skittles is included. Now, let's get back to the video. Here's a tip if you ever go to the Louvre, maybe go in the evening on a Friday when they have late hours. We went at 5 o'clock and it wasn't as packed as when I've gone in the past at 10 or 11 in the morning. Also, another tip is don't just look for the Mona Lisa. Turn around and look at the massive painting on the back wall, because I want to talk about close focusing. I got pretty close to this woman right here who was doing a drawing of the artwork. Now, I didn't get as close as the close focusing, which is 5.9 inches, because I didn't want to get smacked, arrested, or punched at that time. But you can get within 5.9 inches to get the focus correct. Now, with any of these circular fisheye images, you can crop in. Now, personally, I'm not going to crop, but you do have the ability to use different tools inside of Lightroom to help you transform or work with the distortion to then crop into a certain portion of the frame. That way, you can end with a different type of image. For example, way back in the day, Steven used a circular fisheye to get this shot of Paramore and cropped in to get a cool shot. So as you can tell, this lens is as advertised. It gives you very nice images at 7mm. It gives you nice images at 14mm. But who is it for? There's a limited market for this. Obviously, skateboard photographers love stuff like this. Maybe it's video shooters who need a fisheye because they want to be like Spike Jonze and get you what you want. What you want. Right? They can do all of that, but also you've got VR as well as underwater photographers might find this coming in handy when they're trying to photograph underwater. You also have astro. If that is something that you'd like to do to get a massive field of view, you could totally just go to 7mm and do those star trail things and get the entire universe. But really, I could see just about every sports photographer, every team sports photographer owning a lens like this for the times where they want to get the national anthem and all the Rockets' red glare going off and they want to get the entire stadium, or they want to place it as a remote camera up above somewhere. It would be good in those situations. But it is a very limiting lens. You have to ask yourself, is a 10 to 20mm a better option? Because you have the versatility of 10, it's wide, all the way to 20, but it's an f4. For me, I'd have to have both. I'd have to have both because they serve different purposes. But if you're trying to figure out what is the right one for you, I think you're gonna end up with a 10mm much sooner than you end up with a fisheye, unless you absolutely know that you need the 7mm circular or you need a diagonal fisheye. So how much is this lens? It is $1,899, whereas the 8 to 15 comes in at $1,299. But keep in mind, that's like a 15-year-old lens with inflation and tariffs and all that stuff that gets added. It is very close when you add the adapter. You would be basically spending a close amount to that. Now the 10 to 20 comes in at $23.99, the 14 1.4 VCM comes in at $25.99, and Laowa's 8 to 15 2.8 RF, which is a manual focus, comes in at $700. If you've needed a circular fisheye and you want a fisheye, but you can't afford some of these and you just want to use it sparingly, I'm sure that Laowa is going to be fine as a manual lens. But if you want the real deal, you want the RF, you want all of the bells and whistles that it gives you, then you can't go wrong getting this. You know why you can't go wrong? Because there's no other freaking options. Do you struggle getting crisp, sharp, clear images like these in low light situations? Well, I have a free guide to capturing motion in low light situations. Just look for this orange box over on froknowsphoto.com, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I'm gonna send you that guide for free. Now, back to the video. Now let's give it a sniff test and a wind tunnel test to see if it passes, starting with a sniff test. Oh, oh, Mona Lisa's robe. Wow, musky smell. All right, wind tunnel test. Wow, I should have taken this off and do it again. And this. You've never seen a lens do this on a wind tunnel test. The wind just went right over and around, which means passes with flying colors. So at the end of the day, would I buy this fisheye or the 10 to 20 or maybe the 14 1.4? I would end up with both the 10 to 20 and the fisheye because they do two different things. The fisheye comes in handy when I'm in a music studio, a recording studio. For example, with Silvertide way back in the day, I had the 10.5 fisheye from Nikon and it gave me that perfect look that I wanted, whereas a rectilinear lens won't give me exactly what I want in that situation. But again, it's limiting. But for me, if I had to choose between the two, I'm probably going with the 10 to 20, even though it's an f4. I think it would come in more handy for me in most of the situations that I shoot. Now I turn that question to you. Would you rather have the fisheye or the 10 to 20? Let me know down below. So that's basically it. Canon was the first to do it between Canon, Nikon, and Sony. And what I mean by that is first to put out a native fisheye for mirrorless cameras. That's all I have to say, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Jared, Polin, froknowsphoto.com. See ya.